Hi everyone, Last Epoch releases on February 21st. I've already put out a bunch of guides for that game, and today I want to talk about some of the craziest items you can make here, and which are legendaries. So what are legendaries exactly? Well, what you need to know is that similar to other ARPGs, you have this common, magic, rare item progression. There's also these exalted items that are basically upgraded rares with drop-only higher tier affixes. And then there are uniques and set items. So basically all the stuff you would expect. Now, what is special about these uniques is they have usually like certain affixes, something that you cannot otherwise get, or just, are useful for a certain purpose. Now, some of them kind of like lose their value over time because they just get outclassed by other items. And there's a system in this game that actually allows you to upgrade these items in a very cool and interesting way. And that is legendary potential. So what happens is that you can take a unique and transform it into a legendary, which makes it much more powerful if you get lucky. So what legendary potential does is that you can take an affix from an exalted item, one item like this, for example, and put it on the unique. And you can actually make a customized, individualized, like unique for your build like this. So you see here right now, this pair of gloves has 2 legendary potential. It can roll between 1 and 4, with 1 being the most common and 4 being extremely rare. And there are also certain rules in place, like, if you go to higher difficulties, there's a higher chance to get more legendary potential and stuff like that. I think it might also have to do with the rarity of the item itself. But ultimately, most of the time you're going to find like 1 or 2 legendary potential. Personally, I've seen 3 like a few times, and I've never seen 4. So don't really expect too much from the highest, but well, you have basically the option to put 2 stats on this item right now. So I can show you how this works exactly. I have a recording here. There is a special dungeon. It's called the Temporal Sanctum. This is one of the 3 dungeons currently in the game. So you have to go to a certain area here. This is in the ruined era. Here's the Temporal Sanctum dungeon. You need to find a key for this dungeon. So we actually might have one here or here. So there's these certain keys that can drop as you play through the end game, especially in the monoliths. You can start finding these Temporal Sanctum keys, and then you go to this dungeon and you open it. And this key is valid for 1 run. It's like an entry ticket, basically. So you play through this dungeon, you defeat the boss, and then at the end of the dungeon, you have this eternity cache. So this is basically here. And then you can put in this 1 unique item that has legendary potential and an exalted item, these purple items. And for example, if it has 1 legendary potential, it will randomly take one of the affixes present on this item. And of course, if you have 2 legendary potentials, it will have 2. And if you have 4, it will take all of the stats on this item and put it on the unique. So you see here, this is currently the base unique, the Siphon of Anguish. It has 1 legendary potential. And then you do the thing here in the cache, you click a button, and then you open it, and you see what comes out of it. So you see it gained this like magenta colored like affix here, this lightning resistance, which is exactly what was on the exalted item before, like one of these stats on the exalted ring here, this 41 lightning res. So what you get is completely random, and you can get super lucky, it can get super unlucky. However, what is important is that some items just can get a massive benefit out of this, and I'm going to show you an example. So obviously you can upgrade a lot of items in very special ways this way, but one thing that kind of stands out, for example, is the Jorah's Obsession, which is a pair of gloves that has a bunch of res, and then it says stats on this item also apply to your minions. And for example, if this thing rolls with like 2 legendary potential, and then it can put like, a bunch of extra res or a defense or like some offensive stats like attack speed or something on it, well, your minions suddenly gonna be on crack, basically. So this is one of those examples like where you have like really a game changer of these kind of legendary effects, where you can mega beef up your minions, for example. Or what is also really cool is that you can also have duplicate stats on legendaries. So for example, a lot of unique boots have movement speed on them, but then you can get legendary potential and you can have another pair of boots and then have double movement speed on them, and then the movement speed on Blizzard, for example. So you can go really, really fast in this game if you get a really good pair of boots, for example. There's also some other examples of unique weapons here. For example, this Renegade's Will. I don't know exactly how strong this item is, but if you just look at it, it has a lot of attack speed here. It has this extra multiplicative damage effect, and it's like built for like a vengeance build. However, it doesn't really have like any flat added damage, like extra, melee physical damage or something. And if you get this thing, for example, with all these effects that it already has, and then you also make the legendary and get like a bunch of extra flat damage, well, it can really scale up your damage to new heights, basically. So you can definitely see where this is going, I think, with legendaries and the potential of these items they can get there. So I showed you this example, which is, nothing super crazy. I just got a bunch of extra res on this ring. But imagine like on another item that I just showed you, well, these effects can be extremely impactful. And the system also allows for these like, lower tier items to just roll into something great if you try with this legendary crafting, basically. Now, another cool part about the system is that, at least as far as I'm aware, it never changes the level requirement of the item. So you can see this here right now. This exalted ring that I used to smash into the unique item actually was required level 77. Had a bunch of high tier affixes and stuff. And the unique item is only requires level 55. And then if you have the final result, it still says requires level 55. And there are definitely some unique items out there that are, very much suited for like twink leveling, for example. And if you get those with legendary potential, you can make some pretty wild outcomes for like, like a level 20 character or something. And in fact, Last Epoch even has like a campaign skip system through those dungeons that I talked about, where you can do one of those dungeons very early and then kind of like skip a few acts and go to higher level zones much, much earlier, for example. So there are actually these kind of like alt leveling routes in the game. And if you have some kind of items like this, you can boost your second character to monoliths much, much quicker. So what this means is that you generally always want to check like the unique items on the ground. You can't actually filter for legendary potential in the game. So you can filter for which items you want to see. Like, okay, you want to see unique access, or you don't want to see unique access, of a certain level or something. Or you can do like, chests, whatever. But you cannot filter for legendary potential. So if you ever find legendary potential, you have to actually like, hover over, you have to mouse over and see if this is actually an item that has legendary potential. So that's kind of important. And otherwise, yeah, just basically pick them up. And especially if you're playing with the Merchants Guild and you want to do trading, then, well, it may be really worth checking out those unique drops they get, even if the item may seem, underwhelming. If it has legendary potential, there can be some crazy outcomes. Now, while we're at it, there is one other system where you can alter uniques in the game, which is Weaver's Will. So this is something that is a little bit less involved, but I think it also fits in this video, so I'm going to explain this to you. So there are certain unique items that have a so-called Weaver's Will on them. You see this here at the top. It also is kind of like a special role that you can have on unique items, but only on very specific ones. And what Weaver's Will does is that it rolls at random value between 1 and 28, I think. Usually I get something like around 10 to 18 or something. But it may depend on the item and the level and, your luck, basically. And what this number means is that you can upgrade this item as you play with it and roll random other stats. And every time it rolls one stat, it will randomly add +1 tier of a random affix and remove this Weaver's Will number by 1. So you can see this here, for example. So this item has 2 Weaver's Will affixes right now. So you see this Elemental Rest tier 7, and you see this Lightning Rest tier 2. So it already used up 9 charges, basically, and it originally dropped with 12. And now it has 3 left. So you see here. And the way this works is that you equip this item and you play the game, and then it will randomly, do this transformation, basically. So every time you defeat enemies, there's a chance, and you play for this with this for a little while, and it will randomly add any stat that can appear on this item. Like this is a ring, it can have res, it can have life, etc. It can get anything. However, I think it still sticks to the rule of only 2 prefixes and 2 suffixes. So in this case, for example, I got 2 suffixes with Elemental Res and Lightning Res, and then if I ever roll another stat, it would be a prefix. But the thing is that this actually randomly rolls either adding a new stat or upgrading an existing one. And you can see this here right now. Again, this is a required level 15 item. So you see again that the requirement doesn't actually change. and it has a tier 7. This is the highest tier elemental res in the game. 35 elemental res. It can even be you know, higher with up to 40. This is an insane amount of resistance that you have on this really low level item, and this can have even more Weaver's Will procs, basically making this even more powerful. And I think the chances are always equal between adding a new stat or upgrading an existing one, but it cannot go beyond tier 7, which is just the highest in the game. And you can see, for example, here there is the same ring that I had. This is literally the same one, font of the erased, and this is again like another Weaver's Will outcome that I had here. So you see here, this has a tier 6, a tier 2, and a tier 6 again. So this was 14 Weaver's Will, and it rolled those 3 different stats. And they have completely different outcomes here. This has mana regen and attack speed and endurance threshold, and here we have res and res. And well, if I equip this item again, I might, you know, upgrade the lightning res more, or I might get, you know, some other prefix like the mana regen here, for example, or I might get anything else. So this is another kind of interesting way to you know, use those items. And you know, some of these items actually have this potential to roll extremely nice, because they might have a certain stat that you really want for a build. And you know, for example, like a tier 7 affix is not really easy to come by, especially if there's like some other interesting effects on these Weaver's Will items. Here's another example of that. So this is a relic. I think every class has one of these relics. I think they're also always called this like erased something. So you see here, this is the erased primalist. This is the primalist relic, and this is like a font of the erased. So there is like a bit of a theme to these Weaver's Will items. So you see here, for example, this had 7, 12, 17, 18 Weaver's Will. So it's completely maxed out now. I've used it for a while. There's no more Weaver's Will left, and I got these 18 random tiers of stats basically instead. And well, in some cases it can actually roll some pretty interesting combos. As you can see here, it has these 2 minion mods on the prefixes with the minion health regen and the minion health. So this is actually something that as a primalist is not really bad to have if you are using minions. And well, in fact I am. So I have this little guy here, and he massively benefits from those random minion rolls that I got on this thing, on top of having some other nice stats. So this is how Weaver's Will works. And it's also like some nice, you know, interesting way to like alter unique items, but you have less control of it. So you can't really, you know, first craft an certain exalted item and make it into a legendary, like, you know, the other stuff I showed you earlier. And this is more like kind of a gamble. But either way, if this is an item that remotely interests you in your build and you find one that has Weaver's Will on it, well, it's always worth just throwing it on, as long as you don't, like, you know, break your build, any resistances or something. Just try to equip it and see what actually rolls. And you can see, like, you know, the first few rolls usually always give you like a few different stats, and you can, you know, tell, okay, this is going in the right direction, or this is something that is gonna be completely trash. For example, this one would not really help me really at all outside of the mana regen, but it doesn't really have anything else I would like for my build. So this is something I would not really want to use. However, this one, for example, turned out great. So it's always a bit of RNG there. And that's all there is for this video. So hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something. I wish you good luck when the game comes out. For me, I'm definitely going to be blasting Last Epoch, so tune in on the stream. I'm going to be racing on hardcore to level 100. Let's see how that goes. So I'm very excited already. Hope you liked this video, and I'll see you guys next time.